The evolution of animals through geological time. What makes humans such successful animals? Much of our success is due to brain power. Our brains are larger based on our body size. Our brain cells make more connections with one another. And our more highly developed frontal lobe allows us to understand potential outcomes of one's actions. Although body size has remained roughly the same for about the last 1.5 million years of human evolution, brain size has increased by about 40%. There is evidence that our ancestors' brain size increased as the environment became less predictable. Animal life began in Precambrian seas with the evolution of multicellular creatures that ate other organisms. We are among their descendants. What are animals? Animals are eukaryotic, multicellular, and heterotrophic, meaning that they obtain nutrients by eating other organisms. Animal cells lack the cell wall that provides strong support in the bodies of plants and fungi. Most animals have muscles for cell movement. Most animals have nerve cells that control these muscles. The most complex animals can use their muscular and nervous systems for many functions other than just eating. Some species even use massive networks of nerve cells called brains to interpret complex sensory information and to control the body's activities. Somatic cells are diploid cells, whereas gametes, which are eggs or sperm, are considered haploid. Most animals reproduce sexually. The life cycle of a sea star includes the basic stages found in most animal life cycles. In stage 1, male and female adult animals make haploid gametes by meiosis. In stage 2, an egg and sperm fuse, producing a zygote. Stage 3, the zygote divides by mitosis. Step 4, an early embryonic stage called a blastula is formed. A blastula is usually a hollow ball of cells. Stage 5, in most animals, one side of the blastula folds inward, forming a stage called a gastrula. In stage 6, this gastrula develops into a sac-like embryo with an inner, outer, and middle cell layer. After the gastrula stage, many animals develop directly into adults. In stage 7, the larvae or another immature individual that looks different from the adult animal will emerge. And in stage 8, this larva undergoes a major change of body form called a metamorphosis. After metamorphosis, the animal is now an adult, capable of reproducing sexually. Let's look at the fossils of Precambrian animals. All of the oldest animal fossils are impressions of soft-bodied animals. Most of them do not appear to be related to any living group of animals. Here, we see the sea pen, possibly related to the present-day colonial cnidarians. Here, we see an impression of the upper surface of a Tribrachidium heraldicum, which had a hemispheric shape and three-part symmetry, which is unlike any living animal. Animal diversification appears to have accelerated rapidly from 535 million years ago to 525 million years ago during the Cambrian period. Because so many animal body plans and new phyla appear in the fossil form from such an evolutionarily short span of time, biologists often refer to this episode as the Cambrian Explosion. The most celebrated source of Cambrian fossils is located in the mountains of British Columbia, Canada. The Burgess Shale, as it's known, provides a cornucopia of perfectly preserved animal fossils from this period. Many Cambrian animals had hard parts, such as shells, and many are clearly related to existing animal groups. More than a third of the species found in the Burgess Shale are arthropods, which includes present-day crabs, shrimp, and insects. The opabinia is a five-eyed predator with a flexible appendage that protrudes from its mouth to capture prey. Scientists have proposed several hypotheses as to what ignited the Cambrian explosion. These include an increase in atmospheric oxygen and an increasingly complex predator-prey relationships. It is likely that the set of master control genes was already in place before the Cambrian explosion. These master genes created the genetic framework of information flow for building complex bodies. Much of the diversity in body form among the animal phyla is associated with variations in where and when these genes are expressed within developing embryos. In the last half-billion years, animal evolution has, to a large degree, merely generated variations of the animal forms that originated in the Cambrian Sea. Historically, biologists have categorized animals by their body plan, which includes their general features of body structure. Distinctions between body plans were used to construct phylogenetic trees, showing the evolutionary relationships among different animal groups. More recently, a wealth of genetic data has allowed evolutionary biologists to modify and refine these groups. This figure represents a revised set of hypotheses about the evolutionary relationships among 9 major animal phyla based on both structural and genetic similarities. The branching takes into account the body plan, embryonic development, and genetic relationships of these organisms. A major branching point in animal evolution distinguishes sponges from all the other animals based on its lack of structural complexity. Unlike more complex animals, sponges lack tissues. Tissues are defined as groups of similar cells that perform a function. A second major evolutionary split is based on body symmetry, whether it is radial symmetry or bilateral symmetry. In radial symmetry, parts radiate from the center, so any slice through the central axis divides it into mirror images. In bilateral symmetry, only one slice can divide left and right sides into mirror image halves. Among bilateral animals, analysis of embryonic development sets the echinoderms and chordates apart. The evolution of body cavities also helped lead to more complex animals. A body cavity is a fluid-filled space separating the digestive tract from the outer body wall and cushions internal organs from injury. It also enables the animal's internal organs to grow and move independently of the outer body wall. Of the phyla shown in this figure, only sponges, cnidarians, and flatworms lack a body cavity. The sea anemone has radial symmetry. In other words, it is identical all around a central axis. The lobster has a bilateral symmetry, which means there's only one way to split it into 2 equal halves, which is right down the midline. A bilateral animal has a definite head end that first encounters food, danger, and other stimuli when traveling. In most bilateral animals, a nerve center in the form of a brain is at the head end, near a concentration of sensory organs such as the eyes. Thus, bilateral symmetry is an adaptation that aids movement such as crawling, burrowing, and swimming. Indeed, many radial animals are stationary, whereas most bilateral animals are mobile. Vertebrates make up less than 5% of all animal species. Vertebrates are animals that have a backbone. These include amphibians, fish, birds, reptiles, and mammals. On the other hand, invertebrates are animals that lack backbones. This accounts for 95% of all animals. Some invertebrates live in aquatic habitats such as ponds, tide pools, and coral reefs, while others, such as the insects, live on land. Sponges belong to the phylum Porifera and are stationary animals that appear so immobile that you might even mistake them for plants. Sponges are the simplest form of animals and probably evolved very early from colonial protists. Sponges have no nerves and no muscles, but their individual cells can sense and react to changes in the environment. The cell layers of sponges are loose associations that are not considered tissues. Sponges can range in height from about an inch and a half to more than 6 feet. Although some live in fresh water, the majority of the over 5,000 species of sponges are marine. Sponges are examples of suspension feeders. Suspension feeders are animals that collect food particles from water passed through some type of food trapping equipment. The body of a sponge resembles a sac with perforated holes. Water is drawn through these pores into a central cavity and then flows out of the sponge through a larger opening. Flagella on specialized cells called choanocytes sweep water into the sponge's porous body. Tiny nets encircling the flagella trap bacteria and other food particles, which the choanocytes then engulf. Specialized cells called amoebocytes pick up food from these choanocytes and digest it and carry the nutrients to other cells. Amoebocytes also manufacture the fibers that make up the sponge's skeleton. Cnidarians belong to the phylum Cnidaria. Cnidarians are characterized by the presence of body tissues. They have radial symmetry and have tentacles with stinging cells. The cnidarians include sea anemones, hydras, corals, and the jellies, sometimes called jellyfish, though they are not fish. Most of the 10,000 cnidarian species are marine. The basic body plan of a cnidarian is a sac with a central digestive compartment, the gastrovascular cavity. A single opening to this cavity functions as both mouth and anus. This basic body plan has two variations, the stationary polyp and the floating medusa. Polyps adhere to larger objects and extend their tentacles waiting for prey. Polyps include corals, sea anemones, and hydras. The floating medusa is a flattened, mouth-down version of the polyp. These move freely by a combination of passive drifting and contractions of its bell-shaped body. The largest jellies are the medusae, with tentacles 60 to 70 meters long, dangling from an umbrella-like body up to 2 meters in diameter. There are some species of cnidarians that live only as polyps, while others live as medusas, and still others pass through both stages in their life cycle. Cnidarians are carnivores that use tentacles arranged in a ring around the mouth to capture prey and push food into the gastrovascular cavity, where digestion begins. The undigested remains are then eliminated through the same gastrovascular cavity, which acts as both a mouth and an anus. The tentacles have stinging cells called cnidocytes. Cnidocytes are used for defense and for the capture of prey. When a trigger on the tentacle is stimulated by touch, a fine thread shoots out from a capsule. Some cnidocyte threads entangle prey, while others puncture the prey and inject poison. Mollusks include snails, slugs, oysters, clams, octopi, and squids. Mollusks belong to the phylum Mollusca. Mollusks are soft-bodied animals, and most are protected by a hard shell. Many mollusks feed by extending a file-like organ called a radula to scrape up food. For example, the radula of some aquatic snails slides back and forth like a backhoe, scraping and scooping algae off rocks. Cone snails are a group of predatory marine mollusks In cone snails, the radula is modified to inject venom into the prey. The sting of some cone snails is painful and can even be fatal to people. All mollusks have a similar body plan. The body plan has three main parts: a muscular foot, usually used for movement, a visceral mass containing most of the internal organs, and a fold of tissue called the mantle. Note the small body cavity and the complete digestive tract, with both mouth and anus. There are 100,000 known species of mollusks, with most being marine animals. The major groups of mollusks includes the gastropods, bivalves, and cephalopods. Most gastropods, including snails, are protected by a single spiraled shell into which the animal can retreat if threatened. Slugs and sea slugs lack these shells. Many gastropods have a distinct head with eyes at the tip of tentacles. Gastropods make up about 3/4 of the living mollusk species. Bivalves include clams, oysters, mussels, and scallops. Bivalves have shells that are divided into two halves and are hinged together. There are both marine and freshwater species of bivalves, and they are mostly sedentary. Bivalves can use their muscular foot for digging and anchoring in sand or mud. All cephalopods are marine animals. Their bodies are fast and agile, and they are very intelligent with large brains. They use beak-like jaws and a radula to crush or rip apart prey. The mouth is located at the base of the foot, and they have several long tentacles for catching and holding prey. The colossal squid was discovered in the ocean depths near Antarctica and is known as the largest living invertebrate. Scientists estimate that this massive cephalopod grows to an average length of 13 meters. Flatworms belong to the phylum Platyhelminths and are the simplest animals having bilateral symmetry. Most flatworms have a gastrovascular cavity with a single opening. There are about 20,000 species of flatworms living in marine, freshwater, and damp terrestrial habitats. The non-parasitic flatworms are known as the planarians. The gastrovascular cavity of these free-living flatworms are highly branched, providing an extensive surface area for the absorption of nutrients. When planarians feed, a muscular tube projects through the mouth and sucks in food. Planarians live on the undersurfaces of rocks in freshwater ponds and streams. Many flatworms are parasitic. Schizosomes are parasitic flatworms that are a type of blood fluke. These present a major health problem in the tropics. The schizosomes have suckers that attach to the inside of the blood vessels near the human host's intestines. Symptoms of a parasitic infection with schizosomes include severe abdominal pain, anemia, and dysentery. Another type of parasitic flatworm are the tapeworms. All tapeworms are parasitic. They are long and ribbon-like with repeated body parts. Tapeworms have no mouth and no gastrovascular cavity. The head of the tapeworm is equipped with suckers and hooks that lock the worm to the intestinal lining of its host. The tapeworm then absorbs nutrients across its body's surface from the host. Behind the head of the tapeworm lies its sex organs, and at the back of the worm, mature units contain thousands of eggs. These eggs break off and leave the host's body along with the feces. People can become infected with tapeworms by eating undercooked beef, pork, or fish containing tapeworm larvae. The larvae are microscopic, but the adults can reach up to 6.5 feet in the intestines. If a person becomes infected with a large tapeworm, it can cause intestinal blockage and nutritional deficiencies. Fortunately, an orally administered drug can kill the adult worms. Annelids belong to the phylum Annelida and are worms that have a segmented body. There are about 16,500 annelid species. Some are less than 1 millimeter, whereas the giant Australian earthworm can grow nearly 10 feet long. Annelids live in damp soil, the sea, and most freshwater habitats. Annelids have a complete digestive tract, which is a digestive tube having two openings, a mouth and an anus. Earthworms are segmented both externally and internally. Its body cavity is partitioned by walls. Many of the internal structures are repeated in each of its segments. Segmental blood vessels include one main heart and 5 pairs of accessory hearts. The digestive tract of the earthworm, however, is not segmented. Instead, it passes through the segment walls from the mouth to the anus. Recent molecular evidence has identified two major groups of annelids. One is the Aurantia, from the Old French errant meaning traveling, and the other is sedentaria, from the Latin meaning to sit. Most Aurachian annelids are marine and are active and mobile. Their heads are well equipped with sensory organs for moving about in search of small invertebrates to eat. The sedentarian annelids tend to be less mobile, and these include earthworms, tube dwellers, and leeches. Some leeches are blood-sucking. The majority of leeches live in fresh water. Those that feed on blood have razor-like jaws with hundreds of tiny teeth that cut through the skin. Leeches secrete saliva containing an anesthetic and an anticoagulant into the wound. The anesthetic makes the bite virtually painless, and the anticoagulant prevents clotting as the leech drains blood from the wound. Interestingly, a European freshwater species called Perudo medicinalis is occasionally used to drain blood from bruised tissue and to help relieve swelling in fingers or toes that have been sewn back on after being severed. Roundworms, also known as nematodes, are members of the phylum Nematoda. Roundworms have cylindrical bodies that are tapered at both ends. Roundworms are between 1 millimeter to 1 meters long and are found in most aquatic habitats, in wet soil, or in the body fluids or tissues of plants and animals as parasites. Arthropods belong to the phylum Arthropoda. Arthropods are named for their jointed appendages. Examples include the crustaceans, such as crabs and lobsters, the arachnids, including spiders and scorpions, and insects, such as grasshoppers and moths. Zoologists estimate that the total arthropod population numbers about a billion individuals, or 10 to the 18th power. Arthropods are represented in nearly all habitats of the biosphere, and this is considered the most successful animal phylum. The body characteristics of arthropods includes being covered by an exoskeleton, having segmentation, and having appendages coming off of different segments. Such appendages may be adapted for walking, feeding, sensory reception, swimming, or even defense. A growing arthropod must occasionally shed its old exoskeleton and secrete a larger one. This process is called molting. Molting leaves the animal temporarily vulnerable to predators and other dangers. Arachnids include scorpions, spiders, ticks, and mites. Most arachnids live on land. They have 8 legs organized as 4 pairs for walking. They also have a specialized pair of fang-like feeding appendages. These feeding appendages are equipped with poison glands. As a spider uses these appendages to immobilize and dismantle its prey, it spills digestive juice onto the torn tissues and sucks up its liquid meal. Crustaceans include crabs, lobsters, crayfish, and shrimp. Nearly all crustaceans are aquatic, and they have multiple pairs of specialized appendages. Arthropods include millipedes and centipedes. Millipedes and centipedes are terrestrial arthropods that are segmented over most of their bodies. They are included in the Arthropoda phylum due to the presence of their jointed legs. Echinoderms belong to the phylum Echinodermata. The echinoderms are named for their spiny surfaces. In fact, echin is Greek for spiny. Among the echinoderms are sea stars, sea urchins, sea cucumbers, and sand dollars. All echinoderms are marine, and they move slowly, if at all. They lack body segments, and most have radial symmetry as adults. Most echinoderms have an endo or inferior skeleton. This skeleton is constructed from hard plates existing just beneath the skin. Bumps and spines of this endoskeleton often account for the animal's rough and prickly surface appearance. Only echinoderms have water vascular systems. A water vascular system is a network of water-filled canals that circulate water throughout the echinoderm's body, facilitating gas exchange and waste disposal. The water vascular system also branches into extensions called tube feet. A sea star or sea urchin pulls itself slowly over the sea floor, using its suction cup-like tube feet, which can also be used to grip prey during feeding. Chordates share 4 key features that appear in the embryo and sometimes in the adult. The 4 chordate characteristics are as follows. 1. A dorsal hollow nerve cord. 2. A notochord, which is a flexible longitudinal rod located between the digestive tract and the nerve cord. 3. Pharyngeal slits, which are grooves in the pharynx, the region of the digestive tube just behind the mouth. And 4. A post-anal tail, which is a tail to the rear of the anus. Chordates display body segmentation in segmented muscles as well as in the backbone of vertebrates. Here we see the vertebrate genealogy. The first vertebrates were aquatic and probably evolved during the early Cambrian period, about 542 million years ago. In contrast with most living vertebrates, they lacked jaws, which are hinged bone structures that work the mouth. The oldest fish in the world lived 500 million years ago. Here's an artist's reconstruction of Metasprigina walcotti, the world's oldest definite fish. There are 2 general types of jawless fishes that survive today, the hagfishes and the lampreys. Present-day hagfishes scavenge dead or dying animals on the cold, dark sea floor. When threatened, a hagfish exudes an enormous amount of slime from specialized glands located on the sides of its body. Most species of lampreys are parasitic, and they use their jawless mouths as suckers to attach to the sides of large fish. The rasping tongue then penetrates the skin, allowing the lamprey to feed on its victim's blood and tissues. We know from the fossil record that the first jawed vertebrates were fishes that evolved around 440 million years ago. They had 2 pairs of fins, making them agile swimmers. Some early fishes were active predators and were up to 33 feet in length. The jawed fish include the cartilaginous fishes. The cartilaginous fishes includes sharks and rays. These have flexible skeletons made of cartilage. Sharks are hardy predators. They are fast swimmers with streamlined bodies and powerful jaws. A shark has to keep moving to stay alive. A shark does not have good eyesight, but it has an excellent sense of smell. It also has some additional senses. Sharks can sense electrical fields of living organisms. They have electrosensors on the head that can detect minute electrical fields produced by muscle contractions in nearby animals. Sharks also have a lateral line system, which is a row of sensory organs running along each side of the body. Lateral line systems sense changes in water pressure and enables the shark to detect minor vibrations caused by animals swimming in its neighborhood. The skeletons of the bony fishes are reinforced by calcium. They also have a lateral line system and a good sense of smell. However, they're also known to have very good eyesight. Bony fish are able to breathe without swimming due to an adaptation of an organ called the operculum. They also have a swim bladder, which is a gas-filled sac that enables the fish to control its buoyancy. The word amphibian comes from the Greek word amphibios, meaning living a double life. Amphibians exhibit a mixture of both aquatic and terrestrial adaptations. Most amphibians are found in damp habitats, such as swamps and rainforests. Amphibians must moisten their skin in order to supplement their lung function in exchanging gases with the environment. Amphibians are the first vertebrates to colonize land. Mammals and reptiles, including birds, are considered amniotes. The adaptation that gives this group its name is the amniotic egg. The amniotic egg is a fluid-filled egg with a waterproof shell that encloses the developing embryo. The amniotic egg functions as a self-containing pond that enables the amniotes to complete their life cycle on land. Reptiles include snakes, lizards, turtles, crocodiles, alligators, and birds, along with a number of extinct groups, including most of the dinosaurs. Non-bird reptiles are sometimes referred to as cold-blooded animals because they do not use their metabolism extensively to control body temperature. Many lizards regulate their internal temperature by either basking in the sun when the air is cool or by seeking shade when the air is too warm. Non-bird reptiles were more widespread, numerous, and diverse during the Mesozoic era. The Mesozoic era is sometimes called the Age of Reptiles. Reptiles diversified extensively during that era, producing a dynasty that lasted until about 66 million years ago. The Age of Reptiles began to fade about 70 million years ago. Dinosaurs, which were the most diverse reptile group, included the largest animals ever to inhabit land. A period of mass extinction claimed all the dinosaurs by about 66 million years ago, all except for one lineage, the birds. Birds are reptiles, and they are endotherms. They use their own metabolic heat to maintain a warm, constant body temperature. They have many adaptations to make them lighter to enable flight. For example, they are toothless. They have only one ovary instead of two, and their bones have a honeycomb structure that makes them strong but light. The first mammals arose about 200 million years ago. Mammals became much more diverse after the downfall of the dinosaurs. Mammals are endotherms, and they are born rather than hatched. Female mammals feed their young using mammary glands, providing milk, which is a nutrient-rich substance to feed their young. They also have hair, acting to insulate the body and help maintain a warm, constant internal temperature. Primates evolved from insect-eating mammals during the late Cretaceous period, about 65 million years ago. Early primates were small tree-dwelling animals with limber shoulders that made it possible to swing from branch to branch and agile hands, enabling them to hang on to branches and to manipulate food. The eyes of primates are close together on the front of the face. This configuration enhances depth perception. Taxonomists divide primates into three main groups: the lemurs, lorises, and bush babies, which live in Madagascar, southern Asia, and Africa; the tarsiers, which are small nocturnal tree dwellers found only in Southeast Asia; and the arthropods, which includes monkeys and apes. Arthropods also have fully opposable thumbs, giving them incredible dexterity. This image shows the primate phylogeny. Our closest anthropoid relatives are the non-human apes, which include the gibbons, orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees. Scientists do not think that humans evolved from chimpanzees. Instead, humans and chimpanzees have shared a common African ancestry for all but the last 6 to 7 million years. Here is the theorized timeline of human evolution. There were times in hominin history when several human species coexisted. Scientists have identified about 20 species of fossil hominins. Human phylogeny is multi-branched rather than a continuum. A 3.24 million year old female hominin was discovered. She is called an Australopithecus afarensis with the nickname Lucy. Lucy had a small brain and walked on two legs. She was only about 3 feet tall, and her head was about the size of a softball. Next came the Homo habilis. Enlargement of the human brain is first evident in fossils of the Homo habilis found in East Africa, dating about 2.4 million years ago. The enlarged brain evolved a few million years after bipedalism. The Homo habilis were known to make simple handmade stone tools. In fact, the name Homo habilis means handyman. Later evolved the Homo erectus. 1.8 million year old skeletons of Homo erectus have been found. The Homo erectus were taller than their previous ancestors and had a larger brain capacity. They are believed to have resided in huts or caves and to build fire. They also made clothes from animal skins and designed stone tools. The Neanderthals were living in Europe as far back as 350,000 years ago, and they spread to the Near East, Central Asia, and southern Siberia. By 28,000 years ago, this species was extinct. Humans are not the descendants of Neanderthals as once thought. Sequencing of Neanderthal genomes suggests that interbreeding between Neanderthals and some populations of Homo sapiens left a genetic legacy in our species. Roughly 2% of the genomes of most present-day humans came from Neanderthals. The oldest known fossils of Homo sapiens were discovered in Ethiopia and date from 160,000 years ago to 195,000 years ago. DNA studies strongly suggest that all living humans can trace their ancestry back to a single African Homo sapien lineage that began between 160,000 to 200,000 years ago. The period of brain growth is longer for humans than for any other primates. Homo sapiens display complex spoken and written languages. There is an extended period of human development and the development of human societies. This allows the accumulation of knowledge. Thank you for watching.